Good morning, Dropouts. You are with us today for episode number 23. My name is John Paul Gabriel. I'm here with my co-host Matthew Morgan and Sean Buchanan.
Good morning.
Shawnee, how you going?
Good morning. We're doing the whole names.
Yeah, whole names. Before we get into it, please don't forget to follow us if you're listening on Spotify. If you like this podcast, give us a rating. You'll see the little review button at the top. That helps us get more exposure. Of course, on socials and stuff like that, like, share, subscribe. We would appreciate it. Today, we are going to be chatting about cultures and cultural assimilation.
Ooh, yeah. Interesting topic.
Very interesting. I like that.
Yeah. So I thought maybe I'd just kick us off with a bit of a definition.
Yeah, you're always good with those.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, you got that.
I thought you guys are probably hopefully getting used to a bit more structure now with these potties. So I'll kick
we're
off
getting better. Episode 23.
Yeah, 23. We passed the 21 mark, which was like our biggest mark.
Almost quarter of the way to 100.
We still haven't done our dinner.
This is the Jordan episode.
No,
we
haven't. Yes, the Jordan episode.
The Jordan episode.
Oh, wow.
The 2-3. The GOAT.
The GOAT.
The GOAT.
On the way there.
I agree.
There's another Dropouts podcast, but maybe potential rebrand coming soon.
We're catching up with them, actually. I think they got like, 500,000 subscribers, I think?
Yeah, we're close. We're close.
Yeah, I don't know. Someone commented on our TikTok video the other day saying, hey, bro, sorry to say there's already another Dropouts video, but you guys are way better.
Who was it that said like we're starting to get like hate comments? Like we made it.
we made it.
Yeah. Keep hating away. If you're watching this and you're hating, please comment that you hate it.
So we know we're getting somewhere.
That way you engage and we get in the algorithm. So
you ever see like when you scroll through Instagram on the reels and you go to the comment section, people just blitz it, bro. The comment section is legit savage these days on Instagram.
100%. No one gives a fuck.
Fucking savage.
No one cares.
It's like that guy. Sorry, we're gonna get into cultural assimilation.
Yeah, I know.
You know that South African dude that makes those videos. He's like,
"Oh, your mate.
Hey, bro, let's go out this weekend. It's gonna be a ton of chicks. Let's just go out and let go a little." Bro, I found him and I started sending him to all my cousins. And bro, he just started filling up their feed. He started filling up. He stopped. He stopped doing videos like that. Harambe's.
A while.
He started doing videos where it's just text now. He doesn't talk in them. Because bro, he was being dead serious. I thought it was a joke at first.
Hit me up with the cultural assimilation.
Yeah, let's rock and roll. Let's get into it.
Cultural assimilation. We thought it'd be a good topic, given we all our cultural background is not local. Let's call it.
Given that we came on chains, not on planes.
We grew here. You flew here. That was good. They start light and then they just get worse and worse.
Yeah.
Anyway, cultural assimilation is when individuals or groups adopt specific aspects of another culture, blending customs, beliefs, and norms to the point of becoming indistinguishable from that culture. So, so I mean, it's funny because when I think of that, I instantly think of my dad who came here when I think he was like early 30s, and he still got them, but he bought a bunch of books on like Aussie slang and Aussie colloquialisms, and like, he took us to the Tamworth Country Music Festival and stuff. And like, for him, assimilation was like, I've never spoken to him about it as whether it was like a thing of like survival. Like, did you do it because you had to and you didn't feel like you'd fit in, or were you just really embracing culture?
Yeah, two different ways to look at it. Yeah, 100%.
I love that as well, that notion, because like I would like to ask my dad as well, and then potentially even my grandparents, if it was something they were doing because they didn't want to be found out so quickly, or if it was because they felt like they truly were, thankful and grateful to be in a new country. And I think it's like probably a balance of both, to be honest with you. But like, I don't know, when you explained that story just then, I don't know why I just immediately thought of like an older Arab gentleman like using Aussie colloquialism, good day, mates. Like, we're not here to fuck spiders. But he just uses it in the wrong context.
If you met my dad, you trip out because like he's still got a bit of an accent, but his mannerisms, everything. Like, for example, he wears, and I'm talking for like the last 30 years, wearing R.M. Williams boots every day. Like, he has like 3 pairs. I remember once he was so disappointed with a pair, he wrote them a handwritten letter.
Wow.
When R.M. Williams was still like locally owned.
You told us this, eh?
Yeah, I told you
that. They fixed them up
and
for him?
They fixed them, sent him one like...
So anyway, he fully assimilated, like he fully tried to...
Like he actually, cool. Like look, right now, I know he loves Australian culture. Don't get me wrong. Just as equally, he loves Egypt. Like,
right.
I think I told you guys the other day, like, obviously I've got him as dad on my phone, but my cousin met up with him on the honeymoon in Portugal, and he had him on WhatsApp, and he saw that his name was Grand Pharaoh. And it's got the Egyptian flag wrapped around him. So he's a proud Egyptian, proud Aussie, and I feel like he's got kind of best of both worlds. But
I think sort of like back in those days, like, you know, earlier on, like it's, you know, they wanted to come out and be, you know, that kind of representation of going from, okay, yeah, I'm Egyptian, but I want to sort of assimilate to the culture. Like you said, I want to fit in. I want to embrace this new life that I'm coming to, because why did they come over here? Like a lot of the time, and for my grandparents going from Fiji to New Zealand, it was for a better opportunity for themselves and for their children as well. But if you look at it now, like, because Australia especially, it's so, like, especially out in Western Sydney,
diverse.
It's so diverse.
Yeah.
Melting pot.
Like, you almost don't have to come over and assimilate to that type of culture.
That's true.
So now you sort of go into your sort of hubs of places where, you know,
Yeah.
you're
like
sort of going back to like
It's
like
true.
an Australian
Like you've got hubs everywhere.
And
area of your
Like
where you come from.
You got like I don't know, Canley Vale for like, you know, I don't know, Vietnamese, for example.
Yeah.
Leichhardt, you know, Italians.
Yeah.
Like you can kind of go into your own like cultural
pod.
bubble.
Yeah, yeah.
and I
that's
guess
right.
that begs
Yeah.
the question as well. Like, I know you're going to get into some sort of other topics, and we're only just like scratching the surface here. But it begs the question, like, is there a degree to which you should assimilate? You know, at least to some extent, because I know people that come here, you know, from other countries that are just like, no, you know, we come here and we're not going to, you know, we're not going to adopt any of the Australian qualities and any of the Australian attributes and any of the, you know, the way of life.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's pride. I think
Like pride is in like rejecting, or more like proud, like don't want to lose the connection to.
I think the latter.
Yeah, okay.
I think the latter, because they're like, you know, they are happy that they've got an opportunity here, but they're just so, you know, they've got their walls up in terms of like the Australian way of life.
Yeah.
And I think it's a beautiful thing to adopt that, because, you know, you've come here for a better opportunity. Like, fucking
But what
go
it-
to Bunnings. All right? like fuck. Like, buy a sausage sizzle.
Yeah.
But
You
what
know what I
the
mean? Go
question-
to the beach
Yeah.
once.
Yeah, but the question is also like,
Don't
you know,
take it on Gillett.
Fuck.
but what is the Australian way? That's the question as well, because if it's such a melting pot
Great
now,
question.
like which way are we going to
That's a
becoming?
great question.
You know, because you know, look at Australians, like they came over as convicts,
True.
right? And
Yeah.
sorry, JP,
No, I was just
going
going to say that's a fucking brilliant segue, so I had to jump in there.
That's a great segue.
Yeah.
Well, because
I'll let you lean in then.
The segue
Yeah,
I had,
lean in.
I was just thinking about some of like the cultural and, you know, cultural assimilation milestones, and I looked up a couple, and the first one that had actually kind of come up was, you know, the British colonization in the late 18th century. Basically, the arrival of British settlers, of course, which marked the beginning of significant cultural changes here in Australia, particularly for those people who were, you know, for Indigenous or, you know, Native Australians.
Yeah, for the first Gadigal land, 1788.
That's
James Cook, the dog.
the oldest
Is that the
people
name?
to live.
He's savage.
Savage.
Mr. Cook. And like, that's the thing. Like, their
Let him
traditional,
cook.
obviously, the Aboriginals, their traditional lifestyles face disruption and alteration and stuff. So, you know, it's this whole kind of, and then like there were plenty more things that happened, of course, like where, you know, if we fast forward a bit, there was actually, and we've all heard of like the White Australia policy, for example, right?
Yeah.
But that was a genuine thing. It wasn't.
Was that Gough Whitlam?
It wasn't called. I don't know who it was by, but it wasn't called that. But basically, there was an immigration policy in Australia from 1901 to 1958, and that actually favoured Europeans and aimed to maintain a predominantly Anglo
Anglo-Celtic,
population
yeah.
here in Australia. In fact,
1901 to when?
wasn't Gough.
to 1958.
In this century. That's not that long
Yeah,
ago.
that's not that long ago,
it's-
man.
Well,
Like,
we've made
it's
leaps and
sort of-
bounds in terms of
Well,
everything.
actually,
Yeah.
you want to hear something even more crazy? This blew my mind. It was only in 1975 that the Racial Discrimination Act was signed, where it actually, that was legislation that marked a shift towards inclusivity, making it actually illegal to discriminate on the basis of race, color, or national or ethnic origin.
These-
That's
this was-
1975.
yeah, this was
That's
all
not long ago
triggered-
at all.
That's 10 years before I was born.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's wild to think, like, you could legally discriminate based on race, ethnicity,
Yeah,
all
wow.
that sort of stuff, up until 1975.
This was all triggered from, you know, obviously Martin Luther King, and then you've had over in America, like that spread like wildfire, because what was the name of the woman on the bus? Sandra
Rosa Parks.
Yeah.
That, you know, would not go sit at the back, at the front of the bus. Had to
Yeah,
go sit at the back.
Yeah. Man, it was nuts. Yeah. And even, what was the movie you just reminded me of? Like, Remember the Titans.
Yeah, remember the
great
time.
movie.
Cracker movie.
Great
What a movie, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so like I just it's just interesting looking at all this stuff, because you know, these are obviously things that are like we're talking about them now, but you can imagine even just a generation ago for our parents and stuff, how much more relevant they would have been for them coming into, you know, a new country, new culture, and
I guess like when was it when those outside of Australia, obviously like your parents, Egyptian, Sudanese, when did that all started to come? right? Like when did they start to come over? Like I think was it your generation or was it before, or your parents' generation, sorry, I should say, or was it before that? Because for me, I think from back in NZ, a lot of the, moving over to New Zealand was from the Polynesian countries, right?
Yep.
So Fiji, Samoa, Tonga, and I think it was my grandparents around their time that it started to happen. So I think it probably would have been around the same time.
I can't speak for Egyptians, but Syrian Lebanese, they obviously had ongoing conflict and wars, and I think they had been migrating here for quite a while now. I know that the Firuzghob, which is like a district of...
Is this not
it just went on the microphone. It's all in your moustache. This is definitely going to be on the podcast. Just
sorry, everybody.
wipe it with your thing.
JP just sneezed. Boogers everywhere.
Yeah, so there are some districts of Lebanon, I know some Firuzghob, which is like where actually Mitch Moses is from. They were like the Eagles player, Mitch Moses.
Yeah.
They were the first like Lebanese people to migrate to Australia.
Yeah.
And then, as there were civil wars and things of that nature, I think my mum was like, my grandmother rather was pregnant with my mother at the time and flew over here in the early 70s, I think like 71, 72. So I know that was when a lot of Arabs sort of came over.
Yeah,
and then over the years, you've had certain events back home that have, been the catalyst for more people to come over.
Ding, 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 ding. Did we say that last episode?
No, we didn't.
That what?
We're going to say it with that.
Catalyst.
But yeah, what was it like, sort of like, have you ever, had any light shed on your dad's behalf to you about what life was like moving over here?
Yeah. Well, my grandparents, my dad's side, moved from Fiji to New Zealand. So, I mean, my dad was 2 years old when he moved over. So I think assimilating to the New Zealand culture was pretty easy. But I was born in New Zealand, so I don't think that it was that hard. Being born in New Zealand, you sort of grow up, in the schools, and you sort of get to learn all about the history of New Zealand, etc. And I think because of the Polynesian the Polynesian community is very close to New Zealand. It's very, very, very similar. So, my mum's family, they lived in Fiji, like they've always lived in Fiji, but she moved over when she was 20. So I think for her it was a little bit more of a difference, obviously at that age, because she had lived in Fiji for such a long time. But I think also I was just sort of going back to the question of, with regards to Australia in particular, it would be interesting to understand, like, when you're living over in a different country, what attracted you to Australia? What attracted you to New Zealand? Like, what was that sort of conversation like having with your family back in those days? Like, there's this new country, or this so-called free country, I guess. I mean, that's what they may have said. But how hard that would have been, and how scary that would have been to travel across the world and move your life.
A lot of people that... I've spoken with my Jiddu before about this, and I've forgotten some of the stuff he said, but I definitely know, like, you could imagine how much to some people over there that would feel like a betrayal of your own culture and your own country to, like, leave, because that's a big decision. You're literally impacting, like, generations ahead of you.
I think particularly for you guys, because it's a
long way.
Long way
obviously,
away,
when my grandfather, I think he was my mum's dad was the first one to make the call to, like, move over out of, like, our whole, like, extended family, as I understand it. And I think that, like, there were a few options I was thinking about, like, there's, reasonably, like, there's a Coptic, Australian, Coptic Orthodox. A lot of it was connected to religion and, obviously religion and culture hand in hand. So I was like, where are the communities? Okay, they're in Canada, they're in Australia, they're in America, where,
England,
or wherever it may be. And that's, like, obviously a huge decision to, like, go, okay, well, we're literally about to change the course of this family for, like, generations to come.
Well, think about it. You're fucking in the desert in Egypt, and then you're going to fly all the way to this great southern land, literally in Australia. And Australia is Egypt is the fucking desert. If you haven't been to Egypt,
have you been to Egypt?
Yeah, bro. Yeah, 100%. Like,
did you go to a city or not?
Yeah, so I went to Skandaria. I went to Skandaria, Cairo. Sharm el-Sheikh, Aswan.
Nice.
So I went around quite a bit.
Nice.
Yeah, and I went to Syria and Lebanon as well. But it was a massive thing. Similarly to me, like, my Jador sort of, shed a bit of light on what it was like coming here. And not only are they facing, you know, the potential backlash from their family as they're seen as like, traitors or outcasters or someone who's almost selfish in a way, but they're also carrying on their back the burden of like, I don't know anyone else out here.
Yeah.
I've got no fucking money.
I'm alone. Yeah.
I'm alone. Like Majidor literally came here with like, and I'm sure this is the case for most people, like people that, you know, have Arab or any type of, you know, parents or grandparents from a war-torn country, coming over here, like they rented into some little dodgy, shitty place, living at the back of someone's house, then slowly moved up, and then he was working for the grand majority of my parents' like young adult life or adolescent life, I should say, up to the point of 15. Like he was working from like 5 a.m. to, you know, 6 p.m., come home, quickly eat dinner or something, and then go back out and work till like midnight, 1 o'clock, come back in the morning, shower, sleep, go back to work at like 5 in the morning. So it was just a hustle.
But two things I think, like what you're saying about your what do you say? Judo.
Like
being
koro.
the first one, koro.
Yeah.
Being the first one, like you're
Is
the
it?
koro. That's
Koro's
that's
grandfather.
Maori.
Isn't Koro uncle?
Koro now is Maori. No, it's
Koro is grandfather.
Oh,
That's why
Yeah,
we
that's
call
why I
Regan
call
Koro.
that's why I call Regan Koro.
What's uncle, sorry?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Oh, okay.
Rotorua. Sorry,
Yeah, that was good. That was
Rotorua.
good. So like being that first person is such a big leap, like for someone to be able to do that, but also create that path, like you said. But imagine coming over here not being able to speak English.
Oh, bro.
Like coming over here not being able to speak English, and you know having to see all these white Australians, you know, like. That's scary.
And there was an
That'd be
element
for
of
sure.
racism definitely at the start. I know for a fact it's got
bro.
it so
Well, you
much
said in
better.
the 70s, like you
Well,
said
bro,
1975.
my
Fucking Lebo dogs, that's how it was.
There's actually,
Well.
bro, there's actually like
Yeah.
stories of like my
Potentially, yeah.
mum and
No, probably yes.
my mum and her cousin Diana that went to Gracelands High. There's like stories of like someone like burning their hair like while they're honey, I'm home.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
Stories of them like sort of, you
Sorry,
know.
I said that because my wife got home. Yeah, there's like stories of like my auntie having her hair burned like in class.
That's
and,
sad,
like,
man.
You know what I mean? Not like fucking set on fire, but you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Just like
being
being picked
on,
bullying,
being bullied,
picked
yeah.
on, all that sort of stuff. So, like, you can understand why, like, maybe some people recoiled to like go, well, no, I'm going to spend time in my own culture. People that
Yeah,
accept
true.
me,
Yeah.
and people that will, you know, that won't, you know,
Hate on me.
hate on me.
I have a dream that one day a man will not be
Judged by the color of his skin,
but
but
the content of his character. What a beautiful speech.
Yeah.
Very
Cracker,
nice, boys.
cracker.
Very nice. So, what about you guys? What about in terms of you assimilating to culture? I mean, obviously, you guys were born in Australia.
Of course, but there is an element of that.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of my heritage.
Yeah,
I think it's
yeah.
like the most awesome thing. I think.
Except for Egyptian heritage.
No, I'm proud Egyptian.
I'm
I'm
joking,
proud
I'm
Egyptian.
joking.
It's only because, like, I know you say that jokingly, but that's only because I'm not really close to my dad's side too much. Like, I mean, both my
Why is
grandparents.
that always the case? It's like the dad's
dad's
side's a bit
side?
neglected. Is it? I swear. Like, for example, like we spend more time, even on my end, with
Your
my
mum's side? Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure either.
Not always the case, but like
I feel like as well that is the case a lot of the time. Maybe as well because maybe boys tend to be closer with their mums, so we tend to like. But maybe for women, like they're closer with their dad. So I'm not sure. Interesting, but yeah, super proud of that. And I think I would be like, if I was purely like born here, parents are white, like their grandparents came over from England history, but like centuries back, I wouldn't like. I think it would just be boring. You know what I mean?
Well, the interesting thing is, I feel like when we're younger, we try a lot harder to assimilate, but then as we get older, we start to appreciate
Go
our
back to
culture
our
and
roots.
because we
Yeah.
start to realize that like.
That's what
Like,
makes us
no
unique.
disrespect, but like there's a lot of my Anglo friends, or my white friends are like they're like fuck, that's sick that you have that family,
Yeah.
cousins, and
Totally.
you spend
Yeah,
time
it's-
together, and
yeah.
you have a support network and all that sort of stuff that they don't have. But when I was younger, and this is actually one of the questions I was going to ask you boys, is like, when I was younger, I feel like I tried to fit in a lot. Well, I certainly didn't. I've told you guys
Me
a story
too, me
about that
too.
skating and whatever, trying to fit in with the Aussie skateboarding. But like, have you got any stories about how you did try and assimilate with a culture or a group of
Yeah.
people, whether it be like, the Aussies or not, and like you fucked it up or you goofed it up? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Like yes and no,
Gimped it.
in the sense that there are certain certain activities shouldn't have a cultural
But they
background,
do- but
they
do.
do
Yeah.
naturally.
Surfing.
So, but like surfing, like that's in Australia, but in Brazil is like you wouldn't think that's a surfing country, but that is like one of like the biggest surfing countries in the
Yeah.
world.
Yeah.
But specifically surfing, like
It's
I don't know.
it's like surf,
Yeah,
it's like
surf, surf.
no
Yeah,
cows,
it's
so
Bondi.
cow.
Hawaii,
So-
but dude, I don't know what it was with
Bondi.
surfing. I was obsessed with surfing in like high school. I just fucking loved it.
Did
for
you
some
skate
reason.
as well?
Yeah,
Skate?
so all my Aussie mates used to skate,
Yeah,
and like
yeah.
because I grew up in the hills, like there was like me and
Oak Hill.
a boy called called Ray Owedi. He was like one of the only Lebos like in the grade. There was probably like a handful of us.
That's a white school. Yeah.
White school, man. But yeah, there was certain like activities like skateboarding that I think subconsciously like I tried to do. But I also enjoyed the fuck out of those things.
Yeah,
I enjoyed those things.
Yeah.
I was no good. Like I could drop in like on a small quarter and like
Kickflip.
and no, I couldn't kickflip.
So on a small corner, or like
No, small quarter pipe. Like I could
yeah.
drop in on a small quarter.
Pipe, yeah.
There's a video of me at like Crescent Skate Park back in the day where the boys like, all right, you've dropped in on the small quarter, like roll in
Go
now.
do a half pipe.
No, roll in is like not with a coping. You know the coping where you put your like trucks on the
Yeah.
and like, but then there's the roll in which was like slightly higher, and I did it and I fucking ate shit, bro. Like I rolled in and literally
Wouldn't
just.
it be easier to roll in?
I thought so too.
That's what I thought.
I thought so too, but I think it was because
Having the snap down makes it easier.
yeah, and you got to commit. But with the roll, like it was a bit more like, oh my god, I'm going down now. Whereas like when you drop in, you kind of just got to like smack it
Straight in.
down. Yeah, but
Yeah, man. I was like when I was doing the whole skating thing, and clearly I was doing it like to fit in. Like I was wearing all the brands almost and Etnies and Globe and all that sort of stuff.
DCs.
Just to like and like I want to go to the skate park and and I had like both worlds where it was really funny because I'd obviously when I go to school and I hang out with mates and stuff, I want to fit in with them, with the Aussie guys. But then I'd come here and all my cousins would make fun of me for skating.
same. Same.
So I got ripped either way. Like it didn't work either way.
Did you like the skate? Did you enjoy it?
I did enjoy it. I grew to really enjoy it. But the reason I first gave it a crack was because I wanted to fit in.
True.
But I do like even now. Like I follow Thrasher on Instagram and I follow all the skating pages.
Right,
and I fucking love it. It's
Yeah, it's
phenomenal.
cool.
It's so
Yeah.
amazing to watch. But like it's even funny now because you even notice that there's so many more black dudes skate. Like you notice
Yeah.
it more. Like it's become a lot more. I'm not saying like
More open
appropriate,
to
but
every-
but
yeah.
it's like it's no longer like pigeonholed to like skating is a white thing.
And
or
pigeonhole
whatever.
is like one of the biggest things. Like for one thing for me personally, like again, we only speak, and I feel like cultural assimilation. Like a lot of the time, we do a lot of research on certain topics, and we're able to, I guess, dive into like experts in the area. But this topic in particular is so like personal based and anecdotal from your own experiences at least. But at least from my part, I've always hated like this idea of like being boxed in and being pigeonholed. Like, oh yeah, I'm Arab, so like I got to do this and I got to get a haircut like this and I got to dress like that. But like, no, I've never ever been like
No,
that.
Be your own person.
we know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
We've
yeah,
seen,
yeah.
we've seen you with Timberlands, a beanie, trackies. This bloke's wearing Aussie Wog.
He's a mixture.
My brothers used to say like, you're fucking confused, bro. I'm like, fuck you. Like, why do I have to like just I got a Christian Dior bag? Like, it's like whatever.
Bro, when you rocked up with your Dior bag to the pub in Balmain, I was like,
That was
cuz your
hectic.
whole outfit and then the Dior bag. I'm like,
But I like to think the idea of assimilation, like especially, I don't know if it's working in hospitality at many different venues or like having traveled abroad like at a really young age and backpacking like around, that has helped me and served me. But I'm so happy that I'm not like confined to this one
Yeah,
way
it's
of
good,
thinking
but, yeah.
because it opens up the doors in business, in talking, and just like, being able to communicate with one another.
well, communication is a massive
Yeah.
thing. Even
Massive.
like you very much like, even though you obviously have a strong cultural identity and stuff like
Course.
that, you and probably because of mates or school or whatever, but
Yeah.
like, you obviously, you don't, you wouldn't, if someone was to meet you for the first time, you wouldn't come across as like, oh, this guy is obviously like very, very, what's
X
it?
or like,
Yeah, very this or very that.
person,
He's quite articulate. He's well spoken. He
Yeah.
sounds relatively like Aussie, for example, when you speak.
Right.
But there's clearly a connection to culture and
What
stuff
the
like
fuck
that.
did you say, brother?
But also I think like now, like in terms of Australia, like I said before, like it's different. It's not like white Australia like back when your grandparents were
Yeah.
around.
True.
So you can be like whoever you want to be,
Yeah.
like right, because you got so many different cultures. Like you're not pigeonholed to one
Yeah.
thing.
Well,
So
it's-
that's sort of the time we're in at the moment as well.
Oh man, and like that's a big like sign of the times. Like even Kristen was telling me one of her mates is in acting, and she was saying how because they don't see her as like minority enough to get roles in like shows and stuff. So it's just funny how it's gone so far the other way and like
Totally.
like
Yeah.
we want you to be like this or that or
Yeah.
this culture or this sexual
Identity or whatever.
identity or whatever it may be. Not that you go
Yeah.
for that tangent.
But I feel like as well there are, and I'm just speaking like specifically about Arabs in this instance, there are certain things that, have hindered people from fully embracing their own identity based on a small minority of people. But you know what? I hate using that small minority. There's a lot of fucking levels that cause trouble or that have done things in the past. Bro, remember the Cronulla riots in 2005?
Yeah.
How fucked that was?
Yeah.
That was like a huge...
bro,
Bro,
that was
do you remember
massive.
that?
Yeah.
That was like a crazy thing. Like text was sent out and there was like this huge thing. And I think that's what often caused the rift. But
of,
I think with
friction.
Kiwi culture, like You guys are fairly similar to Australians in with a lot of things anyway.
Well, that's why I think the assimilation was easy because it's so close. Like me moving over to Australia in 2008, it was no different.
No.
But when obviously growing up in New Zealand, I tried to assimilate to the Māori culture. So when I went over there, because there was no like massive Fijian hubs, for example, or it was quite hard to find it. I always felt sort of lost. I was, went to primary school, and then we had these cultural days, and there was not a lot of Fijians. So, for example, I went and joined the Rarotongan group, and I did the Cook Island group, and we did the dancing and all that sort of stuff like that. So I was always trying to find where can I fit in? So it wasn't so much about fitting into the New Zealand, the white culture, because in New Zealand it's different. Like it's same. Like there's white Australia, there's Aboriginals, and then in New Zealand there's white New Zealand and there's Māori, right? But in New Zealand, the acceptance of the Māori people is a lot more it's a lot more open, right? So
because they'll drop everyone.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
But literally,
but I think also like because they had war like when the Europeans came over to New Zealand, they had war. Like they actually had war. It wasn't they just came over and took over. They actually had war in 1844, and then they had the Treaty of Waitangi. I think it was in 1845. I think 1846.
Wow.
Nice.
And the Māoris almost won the war. Like almost sent the Europeans packing. So.
Without weapons.
No weapons.
No weapons. They had weapons. Trust me.
They
had weapons.
Spear tackle the shit out of them.
Drop everyone.
Yeah. But yeah, because and then when I went to high school, I joined the Māori culture group. So I was almost assimilating to the Māori culture because we had Māori class, so we learnt about the Māori culture and the wars and all that sort of stuff like that.
That was like a segment in his
we learned about the history and stuff like that. So for me, it was assimilating to that, and I was joining the Māori culture group. Obviously because like the All Blacks, when you grow up, you're doing the haka and all that sort of stuff like that. So I think it was easy for a lot of people, whether you're from Polynesia or Polynesian, Micronesian, Melanesian, or even coming from somewhere a little bit more abroad.
Yeah.
Like you'll see like Arabs and Lebos doing the haka.
Totally.
But that's on the back of say the All Blacks, this big national group, and they're probably assimilating to it as well. But it's such like a close knit community in New Zealand. Like there's things there like that are like in terms of racism and all those sorts of things like that. But those are all things happen everywhere. But yeah, assimilating to that Māori culture for me was something that I was doing because it was. It was hard to find a Fijian group that I could sort of connect to. Mm-hmm. Whereas here, like for you guys, like there's massive,
but Australia is fucked like that, man.
Yeah, like massive Lebanese cultures and massive groups of people that have moved over here in masses because it's such a bigger country as well.
And I've always found it funny how I wish I could go back in time and see how they managed to just keep all people in like how did Granville and Parramatta become the area for
you know what it
Arabs?
would have been? It would have been this. It would have been a couple.
One group
one group goes there, then they put a church in, then they put a mosque in, and then
but everybody.
How did they know that?
Gravitate towards it? No, because it'd all be people, it'd be friends of friends, or I know someone that moved over. Like for example,
this is where you should move.
My grandfather would have probably known someone that migrated to Australia or heard about it through someone, spoken to them and say, "What do you think about fucking Australia?" And blah blah. It's good. Yeah, come over, hectic. You know what I mean?
And it's just built from there.
And they know each other. Like they always end up knowing someone from back home. Or, like my father-in-law will know someone from Sharta that moved over here.
Sharta. So even when you pronounce words properly, it just gives you a sense of he's cultured,
Yeah.
Like even Māori. Like I feel like if you're out with a Fiji, a New Zealand chick, like a chick from New Zealand, you're like, yeah, are you Māori? She's like, you said it right.
Are you Maori?
Are you Maori?
Are you Maori?
Oh yeah, my friend, he's Māori. He's from Rotorua. Rotorua.
Yeah, but what about in terms of language? So you boys understand?
Yeah, so
speak it.
I know you've been making a concerted effort recently, so you can talk
Try
about
my
that.
best.
But I understand really well. Obviously, there's many different dialects, which makes it difficult. Like for example, I don't really understand what the Lebanese are saying, even though it's still Arabic.
Yeah.
But like the Sudanese and Egyptian dialect, I understand. I've been to Egypt 3 times. Whenever I go over there, I'll be there for like a week.
You pick it up,
bro. It'll just be flying out. Like I'll be fluent again.
Yeah.
You know?
So did your grandparents speak it with your parents, and then your parents speak with you?
Yeah,
or?
My parents actually not so much spoke it with us as more my grandparents. And what's interesting is I wonder if that was influenced at all by the fact that they wanted us to put our best foot forward with. I don't know if there was any like
in the European,
undertones there around we want to make sure that if nothing else, they're able to, we're proud of our culture, but we want them to, they're Australian, and we want them to like be, I don't know, be like local. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if that was a thing.
Yeah.
But like, if you speak to both my parents, I mean, interestingly enough, even though again both born overseas, like both, well spoken. You can hear a little bit of an accent. My dad, my mum pretty much sounds Aussie because she came here when she was like 3 or 4. But like, she's got still very, very strong connection to her heritage.
Yeah. With regards to my grandparents, I asked my father, I think it was, and I asked like, how come, you don't speak Fijian? How come, it wasn't passed down? And they just said when they moved over, you just didn't speak it. Like it was English. Like that was the language that you spoke.
Yeah.
So we just spoke that at home, and I always think, man, I would love to have learned. I mean, I can still go learn it, like obviously, but it would have been amazing to be able to speak it, as a child, and then obviously be able to speak it now. But what about you, Maddie?
Yeah, how
are the Arabic lessons going?
Yeah,
bro. Oh, you're doing
it? Yeah,
it?
So what I do is I have this app. So just for those like on right now, I'm just gonna like quickly see if we can connect to someone. So I paid for this app.
Bro, this is hilarious. Explain it.
And my subscription ended. Hang on, did I?
Just tell people what it is.
So basically, it's an app. It's called Azar, and I speak like so. Me and my mum, we have these like little exercise books, and I've basically written, the base, like all the words that I didn't know. Even though like I thought I knew like these words, there's a lot of tenses and male female dominant in Arabic. So like, you know what I mean? Like instead,
the app.
Who, where, he, yeah, but I can't fucking.
Yeah, but tell them what it is.
Yeah, I will.
It's sick.
I'll get there. So basically, it's FaceTime with random people across the world. So
you can select the country.
You can select the country. So I've obviously selected Lebanon. So for the past like month or two, I've just like go to work in the morning.
So it's like chat roulette or Omegle or
it's
something.
It's Omegle, but yeah, with like people from certain countries.
And the idea is all these other people have signed up because they want to speak to people from Australia to speak English potentially.
No, they haven't selected Australia. I've pre-selected Lebanon.
So how are they getting people from here?
Well, they just connect.
No, I reckon on the other side, they've selected they want to speak English, therefore it's...
No, because the free version, which is what 90% of people have, just connects you with people from all parts of the world.
But you've selected Lebanon.
But I've selected Lebanon, but they haven't reciprocated that.
Oh, okay.
So
it's not a language app.
No. No.
It's legit chat roulette.
Yes, bro. This is not a... Okay, it's literally chat roulette. And I just was sitting in bed and I was having a conversation with my mum. I was like, I also want to be able to have a conversation, not with my grandparents and my mum, but maybe someone, because then it's like less
Did you come up with that idea of just going onto the app and picking the country?
Yeah.
You're not that
good on you.
You're not just a pretty face.
I basically just say to him, أنا بدي أتعلم كيف أحكي على العربي. So like, I want to learn how to speak Arabic, and they're like, oh, okay, like cool, like how much do you know? And then we'll basically get in conversation of like, how old are you? Where are you from? Yeah.
Have you had any weird shit? Like, have you had people? Yeah, like you just like rock up and it's a dick.
Nah, it's funny because like usually like when I'm connecting with people from Lebanon, they're like sitting on their balcony having a cigarette. That's all of them. Or just
have you picked other countries? Just like for fun?
Yeah, like America and so like I can auto select whoever, but like I think.
And then you just have a conversation.
You just have a chat.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and they're super like hospitable. Like everyone knows like Lebanese people and like Syrian people, but like I'm not Lebanese, but like Lebanese people are super hospitable. They're savage businessmen.
But you identify as Lebanese.
No, I don't. I don't. I identify as Syrian Egyptian, but yeah, they are savvy fucking business owners. They're highly intelligent, like very charismatic, and it's funny. I also think like certain cultures, like there's stereotypes, but certain cultures are like known to be a certain way for the good things, and like not for the bad things, but I'm talking about for the good thing, for the good attributes. Like what are Egyptians like known for? Like they got their big ass and they just like do the belly dance.
He just goes good things. He just goes good things and he dives straight into big ass with the belly dance.
Because when I went to Egypt, they're all like they're like fat ass.
No. Look, I would say
that's what you like.
I'm
a fat ass.
I would say like when you think about like and I don't like using the term Arab because the Arabs invaded in the 6th century, so we're not actually Arabs. We're Copts.
Coptics.
You guys were Coptic at one point too.
Yeah, go on.
I was saying like Egyptians I feel like are known for like often being like relatively well educated, like pharmacists, engineers,
eye doctor,
like
optometrists,
whatever,
Marcus.
But like education is a very big thing. Whereas like for example in Lebanese culture, the education not so much, but working hard,
hard work,
getting your hands dirty.
They're beautiful, getting your hands dirty and like building a business. Whereas Egyptians are more like go on stable career, good like get a good degree, stable career, and
Zepi, make sure that you study hard, you get a good job, you go to
Where's the Z coming from?
university.
Zob. I've never heard an Egyptian say zob.
But
It
that's
says
what
job.
but you've talked about that, with your parents wanting you to go to
Oh, yeah, bro.
university
Yeah.
and
In the
and
spirit
that-
of the dropouts.
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
But aside from like just our culture and like being Arab and Kiwi and whatnot, like there's also subcultures within Australia, which is something I wanted to touch on a little bit. Like
Just just one quick comment before
That's
you go
okay.
into comment, not gonna, and then we'll
No,
just
go
on
on.
there. But yeah, like on the degree thing, like I just we yeah, I mean we'll forever remain immortal so long as we don't obtain any form of tertiary education. That's all I wanted to say. Sorry, go on.
no, that's okay.
Does that
Like,
make sense? Does that make
something
sense?
that
Yeah.
I was like thinking of, which is super prominent here in Western Sydney. I feel like less as the years have gone on, but still very prominent is like lad culture and like Eshe culture,
yeah.
and like how people have sort of associated them with this group of people.
yeah. Take us through that. Yeah,
And it's characterized by like certain fashion trends, like, you've got the Nike TN and like things like that. And I don't know why this came to mind when I was thinking about cultural assimilation, but
Well, because it's such a big part of the
It's
culture.
such a
here.
huge
Like,
part
it's
of
an
Australian
urban
culture.
street culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who do you think of when you think like who is the icons when it comes to like
Australian urban
like
culture.
Just- general.
Who are like the Eshe or the lad? Like,
Cursor, number one.
who else?
You
Come on,
got-
there's one that's fully prominent nowadays, bro. Come on.
Fuck, Spaniard.
Yeah, Spaniards.
Shot
the go.
Spaniard.
Spaniards the go.
But see, and that's why I love Spaniard, bro. I actually rate Spaniard, especially at the start. He was known for his Hurus lad.
Have you
Yeah.
watched his
But
original,
bro,
his original
Yeah.
YouTube
Yeah.
videos?
Talks
Where he
about-
talks about
talks about prison.
searches. Yeah, he talks about so back in the early days, lad of Sydney, like
Yeah.
we were called searchers, and
Yeah.
to be a searcher, you had to make money. That's like his original video that blew
Yeah.
up. Have you guys
Yeah.
seen it?
Yeah.
Bring it up, Jamie.
He has come he has come such a long way, and he is like a perfect example of someone that has like not decided to stay pigeonholed or stay in this box. He's gone on to do YouTube now. He's doing It's All Leads, and he's doing these travel videos.
explain the lad culture. Talk about the lad culture. What is that?
So
The
like,
Eshe
I think it stemmed from British chavs. Obviously, we have like our roots in England. Like we like to call that we're Britain's bitch. I don't agree with that. Yeah, have you never heard that? Have you never heard that Australians
No,
are Britain's
I've never
bitch?
heard that.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
no.
that's definitely a thing. Like you would have heard of that. Or British people try and put it on us, but fuck you, Brits.
Oh,
But
no,
yeah,
I've never heard
lad
that.
culture definitely stemmed from like characterized by certain fashion trends, but I think stemmed from like low socioeconomic areas, particularly out in Western Sydney. I know there is like a bit of it happening as well in like Melbourne and like the scene in
Yeah.
Victoria.
A lot of it's like also CBD, like Glebe,
Yes.
Woolloomooloo, like a
Yeah.
lot of like housing, like housing
commission
commission
areas.
areas, like that were traditionally,
So let's read a bit of this. So in the lad culture of the 2000s, the image of lad or new lad was that generally of a middle class figure espousing attitudes typically attributed to the working class. The subculture involved young men assuming anti-intellectual position, shunning cultural pursuits, and sensitivity in favor of drinking, sport, and sex. Lad culture was diverse.
Yeah, look, as I know, and that's some interesting insight, but as well, like, with the way Spaniard talks about it, because obviously Spaniard's a very, very reliable source, in my opinion. He talks about, like, like to be a lad, and they call them lads now, but back then they used to call them searchers. And searchers are people that would like search and like rob. Like they'd go in and they'd do ram raids where they'd crash a car into a building, like steal stuff, or they'd like rob people and they'd like smash and grab in cars and they'd grab stuff. Like, so the whole like lad thing, as I understand it, was like they were originally called searchers, and to be a searcher you had to make money, as he says in one of these videos. I'll send it to you guys later.
Right, but like now it's veered away from the original point of searcher to now
Yeah.
like anyone
Just-
who
just
dresses
a-
a certain
It's
way
a
can be
it's
considered
fashion
a
it's
lad.
almost like fashion identity
Yeah.
now.
Correct.
It's like,
Fashion
the
identity.
TNs and the
Nautica.
popped collar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And even then, it's then
The
gone.
bum bag.
It's even like tweaked again. Like if you look at brands like G'd Up, who have made it like they've integrated part of that, but also like they've integrated it almost ethnically too. Because
Yeah.
now like you see heaps of like Islanders wearing G'd Up and,
Yeah.
and like
Correct.
and Lebos or
It's evolved
Waltons
over
are also
time.
wearing.
Yeah.
But
It's
that's
gone-
because we're not talking now about like certain clothing, but rather like Western Sydney culture and what
Yeah.
Western Sydney culture is.
Yeah.
And like if things that come to the top of my mind, like Western Sydney culture,
Tai Tuivasa.
I think guys like
Bam,
Tai
bam, bam.
Tuivasa.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think like UFC and like
The
TNs,
the area.
the
Fighting,
area.
yeah.
Oh, the area.
Fucking El Jannah.
Yeah, yeah,
Fucking, you know what I mean? Kebabs.
Yeah,
Shit
yeah.
like this, bro. Like train stations.
Yeah, but now it's getting into the music as well.
Yeah,
Like
bro.
one
Like
four,
one, then
you
one
know,
four
yeah.
came
bro,
through.
1-4, massive for the
1-4
culture.
was
still-
And that's why I love
still
when
searching.
you hear people say.
That's why he says that.
Yeah,
We're
1-4
still
was still.
searching.
Yeah. 1-4 was still active. We're still
we're
urchin. We're still
urchin.
urchin. Like we're still fucking.
Yeah.
Still
We're
on the
still
scene,
gangsters.
brother.
We're
They've got a
still
movie
gangsters.
coming out. Don't
Oh,
they?
bro,
They
I'm
got
gonna
a
fucking crack someone now.
They got a documentary
Bro,
coming out.
they
I
were
think.
at South by Southwest, which is a massive like tech media marketing conference, and
Yeah, I
they've
saw
just
that.
released this big doco.
Yeah,
It's mate,
about what-
they've like. I loved when they hit it, bro. I was just like the boys from the
It
area.
was
that
cool.
put it out.
But there's
It was
always
super dope.
one that always sort of comes out and then everybody sort of follows because the music scene after them have come out pretty strong.
Well, bro, they
massively.
teed up. They were like probably the first, I would say, just to collab with like an American artist in ASAP Ferg. When they done that song with
Yeah,
ASAP
yeah.
Ferg, I was like, fuck.
That's
like,
massive.
That's
Yeah,
massive
yeah.
for
Yeah.
Australian hip hop. And then, you know, you talk about Australian hip hop and you got guys that came up in the scene early, like Cursor and 360 and who else was there?
Remember that rap battle 360 and who was it?
Yeah.
Was it Cursor and 360?
Like some cunt tried to bake your fin, your forehead started caving in. You're
Oh,
the only
no.
alcoholic faggot that gets drunk on.
Oh,
yeah, all that shit. Yeah, I remember
Yeah,
that.
bro.
Yeah, I remember that.
He
Shit.
sounded like Eminem, I think, in that freestyle. No, I think that's why everyone
Don't
was like, "Oh, he
insult
sounds like Eminem."
Yeah, I get ya.
Eminem doesn't care about 360, bro. Let me tell you.
Hey, bro, 360 Eminem should be scared of 360, brother. 360 is a G.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I don't know.
But that was a bit of assimilation in terms of people trying to, you know, integrate into some different cultures. Like that's a bit of a culture.
100%.
The whole laddish culture, the lad culture. Like I never got into that.
Yeah, like
Not
everything,
really.
and then you got events that like sort of cater to that community, like Knockout and like.
What about? We didn't even talk
Yeah.
about. We didn't talk about like literally like tagging. Like people, like, you know, the
Oh,
massive
yeah.
part of lad culture was like literally trains are getting smashed, bro. Trains are getting so people go in there
Yeah.
like tag up these trains, or used to be on the train. Used to like watch out for like, oh look, there's that one onion soup, or there's fucking
Yeah, my mates used to tag. They used to tag quite a bit
yeah.
back in the
That
day.
was a massive
Yeah.
part.
And then I
of,
think this
the
topic
culture.
but of itself, you know, really I think can stimulate the audience's views, questioning like who really are you, like what community do you confide in, and who do you really consider yourself to be a part of? Are you naturally that person, or are you doing that to fit in? You know, all these questions that sort of come to front of mind for me as well, and really questioning who you are.
Yeah. Also, have you actually embraced your culture?
Have you embraced your
Have
culture?
you actually embraced your culture?
Are you
fully?
ashamed of your culture?
Yeah. I think, like you said, I think like back when you're younger, you know,
You
you,
were more
you just
yeah.
want to be with your mates. You just want to do X, Y, and Z and sort of shun your family a little bit. But then as you get older, 100% like wanting to go back and
appreciate that stuff. more.
appreciate it. Yeah, definitely.
Is culture dying? You know what I mean? All these questions.
Okay.
Now you're just spitting shit.
No, not really, bro. Because I
Is
feel
culture
like
dying?
is I should put word it like this.
reword.
Is ethnic culture becoming?
Oh,
is
it's
ethnic culture becoming less? What's the word here I'm looking for?
That's
becoming-
prominent in people's lives.
Yeah.
No, I mean, look, I think the only reason for that is that, you know, ultimately with every generation, a little bit of culture does die. And that's like things like language is the first thing to go, because me
Totally.
and you, maybe we're not proficient in Arabic. All of a sudden we have our kids and they're now 2 generations removed from the motherland. And then it just becomes more and more diluted as the generations go
But it's
on.
also, for example, being in Australia, you're going to be potentially, you know, getting with somebody else in a different culture.
Exactly.
Right.
You know?
So, and you see sort of like with regards to the Polynesian population, this is what is happening actually in America as well, where you marry outside of your culture. So, for example, you know, I was married to an Australian.
Palangi.
A white Australian. Palangi, yeah. Pakia.
Pakia.
Pakia. You know what I mean?
Gringo.
Gringo, yeah.
Gringo.
So I sort of think like in the next 5, 10 years, even 20 years, like what's that going to look like?
Totally.
You know, sort of, and that's probably the wrong word, but diluting like
Oh,
your...
bro, is everyone just going to look the same in 100 years?
Well, bro, you know,
like,
you should see how
straight out.
people have changed over time. I think for me personally, like I'm trying to
Look.
keep that culture as much as I can. Me and my brothers have like we want to learn how to make aro. My brother already knows how to make aro. Playing arabami cards, like because as soon as my grandfather dies, like all these things are gonna die, and I don't
There's
want my
so-
kids to like lose that
And like,
culture.
as long as you've got a few of those things that you can like hang on to, that will help you with your sense of like
course.
connection
Yeah.
and pride. You know, I agree with
But then
you.
you look at like what's the culture going to be like in the next 10 years with your kids? How are they going to assimilate to, or how are they going to move away from that culture? Because there's always going to be somebody.
Yeah, and you know what? The alternative is if you don't keep culture, family, family and
Traditions,
community and
traditions
tradition
and
really at the forefront, or at least, at the core of what your family does, especially when they come together to share food and break bread and, share a meal together, they're going to be, indoctrinated by this Gen Z culture, listening to fucking Sexy Red on the radio, bro.
But you know,
Coochie's
Matty's favorite song.
Let that go, bro.
But one thing that's good about that, I guess, when you're going into someone else's culture, like to be able to share that, like you're sharing your culture with someone and they're sharing their culture with you. Right?
Yeah,
So,
it doesn't, regardless whether it's like you let
nice.
that coochie breathe, or whether it's like nice food, like a nice different cultures.
yeah. Different cultures coming together.
Good culture.
And I feel like we're getting to that point where we're wrapping up, and I don't want to rely on ChatGPT here, but when we did that Mind vs. Machine episode, I loved how succinctly that ChatGPT summarized the episode.
Yeah.
Where like, and let us not forget that let's get a little ChatGPT going. Maybe just summarize the episode. And I want to see, Sean, how would you do that? Are you good with words? Are you a wordsmith?
I'm okay. In terms of like being on the podcast, I'm a little bit off.
Okay.
I'm still getting there, but in terms of teaching and stuff like that, yeah, sort of rolls off the tongue.
Finding my voice. I feel
But I guess
it's
it depends on what you know. Depends on what you know and how you can sort of articulate what you know.
okay. I'm going to try and give this a go. In summary, though we all come from very vast and diverse ranges of ethnic backgrounds and religions, let us all come together knowing that we have assimilated into a beautiful country and give thanks and gratitude for growing up in a nation such as Australia. Let us not forget to pay ode and homage.
I like that.
Sounds like a
Let us not forget to pay ode, tribute, and homage. And homage to our ethnic cultures, which at its core are what make us unique and individual.
That was cracker. That's
very
finished.
good. Well
the
done.
rest of that rubbish at the beginning, but the end was cracker. I'll give you what ChatGPT said, although I prefer
All right, here we
yours.
go. What does it say?
So as we wrap up this episode of Cultural Assimilation on the Dropouts podcast, remember that embracing diversity and understanding the nuances of assimilation can lead to a more inclusive and harmonious world. Thanks for tuning in. No, yours is way better.
That's exactly
I like
the same as
nuances.
Try again.
It's these certain buzzwords.
Yeah.
I'm going to say try again. As we conclude today's journey through cultural assimilation, may the force be with you. May your diverse experiences be celebrated and shared, reminding us that unity in diversity makes our world more vibrant. Until next time.
I'm Matty.
Oh.
That's JP. That's Sean. Coochie
We haven't signed out with a song in a while.
Yeah, why don't we do something like that? I come from the land down under. Is that a racist song?
No, bro.
No,
What is that?
no, that's a great song.
Men at work.
What's the other one we used to, what's the other one that was like cook
The Kookaburra.
no, the one what's the
push
other?
pineapple, shake the tree. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, I've heard that one before.
Do.
Did you guys sing these songs at school?
Oh,
Like cultural songs?
Waltzing Matilda.
Waltzing
Matilda. Waltzing Matilda.
I hate that song.
Who come a waltzing Matilda with
Is
me?
Nutbush
As she
Australian?
sang as she watched and waited
Wait, do you know the
till
Australian
his
anthem?
belly
Yeah.
boiled.
JP?
Come a waltzing Matilda
JP, do you know
with
the
me.
national anthem?
Australians,
TNT,
let
dynamite.
us rejoice.
Of course I know this.
For we
Yeah. Did you used to sing it at school?
young.
Yeah.
But do you know the
Anyway.
second? You know,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the
I do. The second verse.
Beneath our radiant
What's that?
southern cross,
What-
we tore with hearts and hands.
What's that?
To
What's that song?
make this commonwealth of ours abound in all the lands. In his
No,
No, that's the national anthem.
That is the national anthem. We were just singing
Yeah,
the national
but what's
anthem.
that one?
That's the second part of
That's
it.
the second verse.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
right.
yeah. Did you not know that? Yes, I feel
No,
like a lot of people don't know
I'm
that.
from New Zealand,
What
yeah.
about Southern Cross stats? Whenever you see one when you were younger, you're like, this bloke
Hang on,
hates
what
walks.
the fuck was that, bro? So beneath our
So
radiant southern
we
cross.
toil with hearts and hands to
To
make this
make this
commonwealth of ours,
bond-
bound across the lands. I don't know the next
In
bit.
history's page.
No.
Look up, okay.
Bro,
Look
who
up Australian
cares?
anthem
Who
lyrics.
cares?
No, I
Who
want to fucking know this.
Who cares? Bro, how funny is this? I typed in some Aussie songs, and one of them that came up was Chandelier by Sia.
Yeah, well, she's
Maybe
Aussie.
because she's Aussie.
Yeah.
Is Sia Aussie?
Yeah.
No
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. All right, let's
But
wrap
I
this up.
didn't even AC/DC, bro. He's
Oh,
fucking-
Yeah,
big
they're
yellow,
Aussie.
big yellow taxi. Is it Aussie? It says here.
Who?
What
the fuck,
No,
bro?
big yellow taxi. took
Somewhere
my
over the
girl
rainbow by
away.
Israel. No,
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 he's
covered
not
by
Aussie.
Tash. Oh,
Oh,
no,
covered,
one cares about
covered.
Tash
I
Sultana.
think it looks
All
like
right,
Tash
well,
Sultana
let's
gets
wrap-
trashed.
let's wrap this
Let's
up.
wrap this up.
Yeah. All right.
Let us conclude in the fact
Give
that
us some. Well, he's saying it like you're a pastor. You're like, let us conclude in the fact that.
you do it then, cockhead.
No, I was gonna say before we conclude. That's rude.
It was rude.
That's
No, let's yeah, that's what you do.
culturally
That's
inappropriate
right.
word. No, I'm kidding.
Let's just say goodbye to
let's
Regan.
call
Thanks for
him
listening, Regan.
Regan, the first
And
listener.
Maxie, thanks for listening.
Regan will love. You know how much he'll love just hearing his fucking name. Bless you, Regan.
You're arrogant. Smug.
Can't take
I
that
love
out
you,
now.
Riggs. I actually love you, bro.
All right, this is the Dropouts.
No, I
episode
was
2, 3.
gonna say
Sorry,
something
go,
like,
go.
yeah, but like if there's any, we want to start if we can, like incorporating some like comments or questions or anything
right,
like
yeah,
that into the beginning of our next episode on behalf of like audience members. Like if there's any questions or things you want us to like, because what I've seen in some other great podcasts is when people send in questions, it's pretty
Yeah.
funny and pretty cool to discuss.
But that's what's
That's
really
hilarious.
big now. Like people sending
Sending
commenting,
And you know what we can do?
commenting
We
and
don't
stuff.
even
an
have
easy
to
way
rely
for
on
us to get
episode.
content from.
Well, we can do this on our story. Ask people on our story to do that.
Oh, put like
True.
a
poll.
a
Anyway,
question. Yeah, true.
Wrap it up.
But yeah, I'm JP. This is Matty on my left, and that's Shawnee over there. And thanks for tuning in.
23, baby.
We are the Dropouts.
We'll see
Let's
you for
go.
24.
Coach
Kobe.
Assimilation. Let's go.
Bye.
I'll see ya.